Yes, welcome in everyone, and this is the full 10 yards NFL podcast. Me in the hot seat today, me quarterbacking. Sean is he's a bit busy tonight, so he can't come and commandeer the ship. But I've got two guys in the huddle that will help me get to remember how to host a podcast, because I might have forgotten. Who knows? It's been a while since I've done it. But anyway, we're welcoming him in. You'll know Steve. He's been doing this for the last couple of weeks. So Steve, welcome you in. Obviously, a lot of action over the last week in terms of trades to talk about, and obviously one of your team was involved in that. So was that good or a bad thing to see?
Yeah, I was actually on a Zoom call with work when it dropped, so I didn't even know it happened. And then all of a sudden, I was getting all kinds of messages saying that the Eagles are traded. So yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. I didn't think they'd do anything this soon. I thought they might wait till draft night. But yeah, excited to see it. Something to talk about. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Well, absolutely, yeah. It was a bit of a mental day on Friday, wasn't it? And so we do have 410yards.com. Lee and some of the guys from the 410 yards crew did kind of put their thoughts down on paper on the fallout from those Friday trades. And as you can see on the topics there on the bottom left hand side of your screen, that's the kind of thing will be the first topic of business. But two for the price of one. Andy, you got two trades on the Friday, being a Miami Dolphins fan, and but yeah, apart from that, how are you doing? Obviously, you second shift for you with doing the college pod just an hour ago.
That's it, mate. Yeah, all good, thanks. I mean, it was like an absolute crazy on Friday, wasn't it? We'll get into that in a minute. But just to say, man, like draft season, it's just like hot take central, isn't it? Just can't move on Twitter without seeing somebody just like sticking it out there just in case in 9 months' time they happen to accidentally be right. It's just one of those where you either love it or you hate it or you just mute it, don't you? So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah. Cold freezing takes Twitter handle going in overdrive, noting down all everyone's takes. Yeah, my one's going to be Justin Fields QB1, but there we go. We'll move on to that maybe in the off season. Like I say, we've got a couple of not too much news. Obviously, it's just in the build up to the draft. One thing I will point out, Andy, really enjoying some of the content you've been putting out actually with the wide receivers and stuff, and we have been tweeting that as well. So make sure if you haven't already, if you want to learn about some wide receivers, boom busters, and who's the wide receiver one, and all the other good stuff. Andy's been doing a heck of a job on that as well, so go and check that out. But yeah, we'll also be talking about obviously the 17th game has been confirmed by the NFL. We did say a couple of weeks ago that would probably be the case this season. And we will have a look at the breakdown of all the games, because it's divisions at divisions, so plenty of games to get our teeth into and kind of breakdowns. We'll pick our favourites, and then obviously the NFC East was the worst division in 2020, so we're gonna have a little kind of ponder of what could be, whether the NFC East will repeat or whether maybe there's a sleeper pick in there in terms of what division will be absolute turd next year in 2021. And then with the news, Alistair Kirkwood stepping down from his role over at the NFLUK. Obviously, he's done a sterling job over the past 2 decades. So we're going to pick out our favourite in international series moments. Give him obviously a big thank you as well. Look at his legacy, what he's done for the game, and just give him a bit of a round of applause. Not quite the NHS on a Tuesday at 7:00 or whatever it is, but we'll give him a round of applause anyway, because I think he deserves it, being an NFL fan in the UK. And then we'll kind of lead on to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, and we'll give you kind of what teams and other sports that we like to follow, what teams we passionately kiss the badges of, or I'm not necessarily a big team sport person apart from NFL, but I like a couple of other single sports. So we'll go through our favourite players, our favourite teams, just to kind of so you get to know us just that little bit more. But then gents, let's get to it. For the Friday fallout, as Lee dubbed it over on 14yards.com's website, a couple of trades involving Miami Dolphins going back and up and down like a yo-yo. First, the 49ers came calling, Andy, didn't they? Number 3 overall, they've traded up to get when the dust has settled, giving the Dolphins at the time at number 12 overall, and then a couple of first rounders over the next 2 years, and then a third rounder as well. First, Andy, I know I'll come to you at the end to talk about both deals and whether you liked both or whether you liked one or the other. But were you surprised that the Dolphins were traded back from 3 overall? I know there's not really too many things there. They don't need a quarterback. They took Tua last year, didn't they? But any surprise at all from you that they moved back, or even moved back as far as they did in this deal?
A little bit in terms of how far they moved back. I thought we were looking at a Carolina sort of job, and that's obviously why it's so interesting that we came back up above those teams. But we'll touch on that in a minute. But yeah, in terms of the, I thought that kind of deal with San Francisco was there to be made, but I thought it'd almost be a last resort sort of thing. But the kind of haul that the 49ers gave up for it, I mean, it just seems like good business from Chris Greer. Like you said, we don't need to be in that quarterback hunt And it just looks like the Jets are going to go down the Zach Wilson route. So if you've got that kind of QB3 sat there, and those other teams are going to come battle for it, then maybe it's just good to be ahead of the game and get the best offer you could do a month out. And I mean, like 3 first-round picks, just really good business. And obviously all that stemming from that Laramie Tunsil trade a couple of years ago, and that has kind of just proved to be absolutely fantastic business by Chris Greer and co. And it's all just Miami have obviously got to convert those picks now into like huge contributors, but yeah, I mean, just sensible business, and it worked out well in the end with where we ended back up.
Yeah, some people obviously that would like poking the bear may obviously argue that they are in the QB market, but I won't go too I won't go too into depth into that one. But I suppose it does help when you've got a QB class as seemingly as deep as this one, and I suppose looking at Miami's needs on the face of it, it helps that there's a strong wide receiver class, and obviously you've got Kyle Pitts there, who's technically a wide receiver anyway. But with that trade, then the second domino consequence of that, the butterfly effect, if you will. Steve, your team got a bit involved, didn't they? And traded with the Dolphins. The Dolphins taking 6 from the Eagles. The Eagles going back 6 spots. And then kind of swapping a couple of picks this year, and then giving the Eagles one of the plethora of Miami Dolphins first round picks that they have over the next couple of years. Were you happy? Were you happy from a Philadelphia Eagles perspective, or are you quite sad the fact that you're unlikely to get Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts now?
I think that sums it up right there. In that sentence at the end is now that the Eagles are now out of the hunt for one of either Chase or Pitts, and either one of them are going to be projected to be a generational receiving talent. Whether it's tight end or wide receiver. And it's disappointing to know that we're not going to be in the position to draft either of those. And if you believe some of the noise around the league, there's a lot of talk to suggest that the first 4, or maybe within the first 4 or 5 picks, depending on what Atlanta and Cincinnati do, maybe trading back, 4 of those could be quarterbacks. So at 6, which is where the Miami now are, they could have their pick of the non-quarterback class, which is a plethora of generational talents across various positions. But I think once you get out of the top 10 to 12, the drop-off is quite significant in terms of first-round talent. So I'm glad that we didn't go back too far. 12 is still a good place. And looking at some of the talents that the Eagles could pick up there, a couple of cornerbacks have been mentioned in the name of sort of Patrick Surtain. But the only downside is they're now behind divisional rivals in New York and Dallas. They both pick directly in front of Philadelphia. So that could come back to haunt them. I don't know. It is disappointing. Obviously, they are now in full rebuild mode. They're absolutely in full tear it all down and start again rebuild mode. Because if they weren't, they would have stayed at 6 and picked there and taken a Chase or a Pitts or even a Sewell maybe. But now they're stocking for the future. And it was interesting that the pick that they traded with Miami was Miami's first as well, not the San Francisco first. So that suggests to me that Miami's confident that they're going to be at least a playoff team this year, because then that pick will be in the 20s somewhere. And then that's not as high as, say, like where Miami ended up getting Houston's pick, which was number 3 overall. So yeah, on the one hand, it's disappointing, but it's always good to see, planning for the future, because Philadelphia are now potentially going to have 3 first-rounders next year, depending on Carson Wentz's play in Indianapolis. The Eagles could have 3 first-round picks, and no one else in the league's got 3. So that could be huge. But again, Harry Roseman, he doesn't draft very well. So, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I don't think I'll be watching the draft next year then if they're picking 3 times. But it's all right. You've got Jalen Reagor going in the slot. You're all right. It's fine, apparently. Yeah, that's one for the offseason. But yeah, obviously, Andy, were you surprised at the second trade at all to go back up to 6? I suppose in your mind, then that kind of get that, I suppose you've been hypothesizing who you've gone back up for. And like we mentioned, it helps that, with so many quarterbacks that will be going early, you're going to get a need obviously for Miami as a wide receiver. I know they've got Kasicki at tight end as well, but Kyle Pitts, he's been dubbed as pretty much a wide receiver anyway. So I think it's pointless, pigeonholing him into making him a tight end and all the rest of it. But happy with the second one to move back up, and were you happy with the price you had to pay for that, being relatively little?
It's an interesting one because I didn't think we'd do it once the first one had happened. I thought that was it. We're gonna sit there and we're gonna take whatever falls to us and just kind of play the board that way and maybe jump up one or two slots based on who's available on draft night. But like Steve said, first and foremost, like shows that the Dolphins completely back themselves, flipping our pick rather than the 49ers. So that's like really interesting. And to me, it shows everyone's going on about Pitts or Chase. I don't think that the Dolphins want either of those guys at this point. I think they want one of the Bama guys. I think that's why it makes sense to go back there because you know that there's a strong chance that the Bengals are going to take Jamar Chase. If he was really your guy, you'd have stayed at 3 to make sure you got him. You know that if you were after Penei Sewell, then the Falcons very much could solidify that line. Or again, the Bengals really need to block for Burrow, so he's going to be gone. I don't think Pitts will go there. I think Pitts makes a lot of sense to go there, but I think Miami likes what it's got in Mike Gesicki. One of probably the most reliable target they had on offense last year. I know there's the whole talk about the 2 tight end sets and stuff like that, but I think for me, it's going to be Smith. It could be Waddle. If Smith's already gone, I think they're really going to put all the stock that they can into chemistry with Tua. He knows both guys already. He's played a lot with Devonta Smith, obviously through that absolutely fantastic touchdown in the national championship where he came in and relieved Jalen Hurts. Sorry, Steve, at halftime for Bama. But it just makes perfect sense to me. That's what's going to happen because even if you can't see Atlanta going wide receiver there with the kind of stock they've already got. So even if for some reason the Bengals went for Smith, Waddle still sat there. They're confident of getting either of those Bama guys, and that for me just makes perfect sense. But I will also sit back and say that I'll be absolutely fine with Pitts or Chase there. And we broke that down a lot on the Dolphins pod I did last night, and everyone seems to be fully behind Pitts, and I get why. But I just don't think the Dolphins are going to do that.
Yeah, obviously Pitts was he? He was Gators, wasn't he? Pitts.
Yeah.
So obviously Florida, Miami. So he's not going to have to move too far if he does. And Brian Flores was he in New England with the Gronk and Hernandez duo as well? Yeah,
in the scouting department. Then for sure. I mean, there's also the kind of the point that the Dolphins are just going to. Just need to put anything around to her, so it must be so clear and obvious that they're going to go for an offensive weapon there. That it just feels to me that they needed to get back up above, like Detroit probably, who if they're in on Jared Goff, they're going to give him as many weapons as possible there. So they needed to get in front of them, and then you kind of get into no man's land, don't you? Where the wide receivers and stuff, the best players will start to go if Jerry Jones gets his hands on another playmaker, then that could be even more pain for you with your secondary. But
yeah, do you know what I thought? But I know we're at 10, but I kind of thought, in random scenario, like probably one that's got 1 in 100 chance of happening. If Kyle Pitts fell to 10, right? And Dallas were picking. I wouldn't be against it. I know I'm a hashtag always jarring, but Jesus Christ, do you know what I mean? Pitts with Winfrey, Jesus Christ. And I need to just put him on defense as well. Sorry. Obviously, with where there's any trade or there's any players or picks moving about, there's always going to be winners and losers. So, Steve, we'll come to you for a winner. Who's your kind of winner out of all of this?
I'd say Jalen Hurts is an obvious winner. I think that obviously the Eagles, there was some noise from some source in the NFL that the Eagles wanted to move up to 3 themselves to try and take a shot at Zach Wilson, but I think they believe that the Jets are taking him. And with Joe Douglas being the GM in New York, obviously came from Philadelphia, they probably have a good inclination that that's what they're going to do, and I think all roads point to that. So if they couldn't get him, it sounds like they were just happy to move back because they couldn't get their guy. So that then tells me that Jalen Hurts, or at least they think he's the guy, at least for 2021, which gives him a chance to make his name and make a claim for that jersey. I don't know how well he's going to do with that sort of Philadelphia team that's got a lot of holes in a lot of places. If the offensive line can stay healthy, when all the guys are there, which hasn't happened much in the last couple of years, it is a top offensive line, but they've just been so hurt. So yeah, I think he's definitely a winner from this. In terms of a loser, I would probably say one of the teams, one of the quarterback hungry teams towards the back of the top 10. So maybe Carolina or maybe even Denver. Who Andy said, and I agree with Andy. I think that I was expecting one of those two to jump up. I didn't think it would be San Francisco because of how much it costs to get from 12 to 3, as San Francisco proved, and that sort of set the bar now that if any team wants to jump in. And again, sort of Miami again have put themselves right back in a position, because if say 3 quarterbacks go and then Atlanta take a non-quarterback player and then the Bengals take either Chase or Sewell, like most people think they will, Miami could be sitting at 6, and then all it takes is one team to really, really fall in love with, say, Trey Lance or Justin Fields or even Mac Jones, dare we say, and then all of a sudden that could be a Carolina or a Denver or even like a New England trading up with them again, and they could even stock even more picks, So yeah, there's some definite winners from this trade for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, just part of that, winner for me. Like I say, if Atlanta if they want to trade back, then I say they'll get a decent haul for that. But I think the winner for me is the quarterback that San Francisco select. Not only because obviously they've traded up, it's how early they've traded up, and it's to say we've traded up before anyone else had the chance to, because we want you now. I really hope it's not Mac Jones, and the look on Kyle Shanahan's face on their overthrow is absolutely absolute gold, wasn't it? But yeah, I think it will give the quarterback coming in a lot of confidence. Obviously, that makes Jimmy G a big loser, which does not pay me to say one bit. But yeah, he might find somewhere else to go and play. And yeah, I don't obviously wish ill of anyone, but yeah, everyone knows my thoughts on Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. But there we go. And Andy, any winners and losers for you? I suppose you consider Miami a winner because they're at 6 and, like you say, probably still get the guy they want.
Yeah, I think Tua's the winner here, isn't he? It's clear that the Dolphins have moved back out of quarterback territory. That kind of puts a stop to those kind of constant "is Tua the guy" sort of thing for now. So he's the winner for me. He's going to get a kind of stacked offense. Already added Will Fuller, a healthy Devontae Parker's as good as any possession receiver in the league on his day, and then you add in a kind of big name guy from the first few picks in the draft, and Tua really wins there, and he's going to have a lot of weapons to play with, and he has got to prove it next season that he's the guy. If Miami are picking in this sort of range again, then it's going to be a bit worrying. Obviously, for a 10-6 team, you expect them to be picking back end of the 20s this year if the kind of trajectory continues. In terms of a loser, I'm just going to say Colin Cowherd, because he's been the one that's just peddling this absolutely relentless Tua's crap sort of narrative for the last few weeks. So can't stand the guy. Just back in your box, mate. It was never going to happen. So yeah, he can move on to telling me more about Baker Mayfield and why he's a poor quarterback in the playoffs as well.
There we go. Don't know why anyone gives him the light of day, but anyway, we shall move on. One bit of good news that we've also had since we last spoke. Obviously, the NFL have announced that we will have a 17th game. No second bye week though, which was quite surprising. I must admit that it's so it essentially just moves the Super Bowl back a week, the day before Valentine's Day. So everyone can get their priorities right, obviously. Obviously, that means the preseason will be reduced from the 4 games to 3. No one watches preseason anyway. Like I say, no extra bye week. First day of the regular season, just for your notebooks, is the 9th of September, and the last day of the regular season will be the 9th of January as well. So Pro Bowl, for anyone that cares, February the 6th, and like I say, Super Bowl 56 will be on February the 13th. So was it SoFi Stadium this year, isn't it, when the Cowboys beat the Chiefs? But I don't know. But that with in mind, for this, obviously I've got the games there in front of the screen. So they've done it obviously by divisions, and they obviously will do it in a rotation in terms of the 2 divisions that get paired will play each other depending on finishing position. So you can see on the screen there, Green Bay, Kansas City is obviously because they've both finished first, but you've got NFC North at AFC West. You've got the NFC West at the AFC North, the NFC East at the AFC East, and the NFC South against the AFC South. Now, I don't know how they drew it. I don't know if they did it out of a hat. I don't know if they just picked it and did the spinner wheel thing, or I don't know, but it doesn't really make any sense. So you'd think maybe to start off with, they'd do the same compass direction, wouldn't you? But this is the NFL. Who knows? But yeah, like I say, so Steve, obviously you can see all of them in front of you there. Anything, obviously Green Bay, Kansas City is the obvious one that strikes out, and he's the one that NFL, Twitter handles and all this, it's gonna hammer home down our throats. But anything else there that strikes out for you?
One thing I do know, I read about it, is that they are alternating which teams are at home every year.
Yeah.
The AFCs are all at home, and next year it'll be the NFC are all at home. So I know that they're doing that. Just quickly, I was really shocked that they're not having a second bye week. When I found
I was.
it was confirmed yesterday, I was telling my housemate about it, and I was confident. I was saying, yeah, I reckon they'll probably throw in a second bye week for everyone there, because that's a lot of games. And then when it wasn't, I was like, oh. No, that's surprising. That's surely potentially even more injuries, a longer season for a lot of these guys. But reducing the preseason to 3 games seems like a no-brainer. None of the starters play in preseason anyway, apart from maybe the odd 15 minutes here and there. So yeah, I'm all about reducing that. But in terms of the games that have been tacked on to the end of the season, I think an obvious one that stands out is Arizona at Cleveland. Arizona have obviously added a couple of big pieces in free agency. JJ Watt. Being a huge name, and they're obviously all in on Kyler Murray, and they think that this is their year to capitalize whilst he's still on his rookie contract, and they can stack big money names around him. And then Cleveland, obviously, going to the playoffs last year, as Sean so proudly reminded us all, for the first time in however many years it's been, and even winning a playoff game as well, was huge for them. So I think they're going to potentially want to replicate that. So that could be a big game with playoff repercussions as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily going to be like the final game week of the season, because that's obviously saved for divisionals. So I don't know when these are going to be plonked around. Obviously, the schedule's not come out yet. I think it's May, isn't it, when they're going to release kind of the schedule. But I think as a whole, I think the NFC West at the AFC North does provide a few crackers. I mean, the one that struck out for me was the Rams at Baltimore. I think that's going to be a great game. With the defenses, the Rams defense going up against Lamar Jackson and that running game. But also, Baltimore at home is always a difficult proposition, and they've had some good games. Was it I can't remember. Was it MTN Bank? MT? I can't remember what the name of the stadium is now. What's the Jags is TIAA, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I was getting confused with. But yeah, no, I think the West, the NFC West versus the AFC North, even though Seattle and Pittsburgh has a decent chance of being a decent game as well. Maybe more from an offensive standpoint, if they can keep Russell Wilson upright and not let that defense through. But Andy, any strikeout for you there?
I was going to say the Rams at the Ravens, but I'll also pivot to Washington at Buffalo. Actually, I think that would be a real test for Josh Allen. We know he likes to get out of the pocket and run the ball, and he's going to have a huge Washington front line to get past. So I think that'll be a real defensive battle. I think it'll be a real interesting one. See if the football team secondary can hold up against Allen and the kind of deep threats on the Buffalo offense. But yeah, and just as a slight aside, it feels like this is going to be a 17-game season for a couple of years maybe, and then it's definitely going to be an 18-game season, isn't it? Let's not lie. It's coming down the line very quickly.
It does make you wonder how many games they slot in before that second bye week comes in, because surely once they've got to 18, any more than that, and the players will be clamoring for it. The NFLPA will be definitely like, we need a second bye week, no more games until we get one.
Yeah, it might be worth any bettors out there. It might be worth fading the teams that get the early bye week, like week 5 or 6 or something like that, because it's good. It's a big back stretch there, so it'd be interesting to see kind of the teams that do get the early bye week, the success or the percentage that actually get to the playoffs. Obviously, we saw Tampa Bay struggle before their bye week and then went perfect pretty much, didn't they? So won the Super Bowl. Let us know at Full 10 Yards on Twitter. Any particular games? I know everyone's clamoring to watch Chicago at Las Vegas, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Even though Monday Night Football can flex, or is it something? I don't think they'll be knocking on the door anytime soon. So there we go. But talking of divisions, obviously last season the NFC East was belittled on a daily basis of being how crap it was, and as you can see on the graphic on the screen there, they only mustered 23 whole wins, which is, whilst it's only four less than the AFC South, which is probably a bit under the radar actually if you think about it. I thought it'd be quite a fun exercise just to have a look at, go through the 2020 total wins for the division, maybe have a look at any particular divisions. Will the NFC East repeat, or will we think something else? So obviously you have AFC North head and shoulders pretty much above the rest with 38 wins, the NFC West 36, AFC West with Kansas City obviously with 34, NFC North 33, which I thought looked quite high number when you think about the teams in that division, AFC East 32. along with the NFC South and then AFC South 27, NFC East 23. So, Andy, we'll come to you first. Which division do you think will, do you think the NFC East will repeat, or is there another division there that's lurking that's going to be really bad next season?
No, I think that the AFC South is set to be that NAF division next year. I think the Jags in year one of the rebuild. I genuinely think when they've got Lawrence on board and some good weapons, they'll get better, but it won't happen overnight. Especially with like a college coach coming into the NFL. I think the Texans are trash. If they haven't got Deshaun Watson, it could be a 1-16 or 0-17 sort of season for them. Some of the roster moves they've made just scream, give me the first overall pick next year. The Titans have lost two sneaky good weapons for Ryan Tannehill, and two that he relied on a lot, Jonnu Smith in the red zone and Corey Davis on the outside, kind of really taking taking advantage of the double teams that you see on AJ Brown every week. So I think they might be a candidate to kind of regress next year. And the Colts are just a question mark, aren't they, with Wentz? If we get Wentz in his prime, as Steve will know, then they'll walk the division easily and come out as a solid playoff team. But what happens if he's just like he was last year? It's going to be it's not going to be that pleasant to watch, is it?
No, I said before you joined the room, actually, before we recorded, I went AFC South, so I totally agree. Steve, you've got a bit different though. What are you gone for?
Yeah, I mean, you could always say the NFC East again, but I think that maybe not the Eagles, but I think the other three teams have definitely improved in free agency and will do in the draft as well. So I think those three could have all got a chance of having a positive record. But I think a sort of sleeper candidate could be the NFC North, because although, yes, the Green Bay Packers will pad out the division and they'll probably get their standard sort of 12, 13, maybe even 14 wins, the Lions are going to be a dumpster fire because, who knows what they like in Jared Goff. They've lost a few players. And they've got a new coaching staff coming in. The Vikings are on a downward trend. Kirk Cousins is coming towards the end of his deal. He's also getting older. They've just lost Carl Rudolph, as well as some other big names. I think they're on a downward trend. And then the Bears are the Bears. They've just given Andy Dalton
QB1. He's the QB1, and he won't tell you any different.
Yeah, exactly. And so they could win 10 games or they could lose 16. You never really know what's happening in Chicago. So yeah, I think probably the other three teams would probably amass enough wins to push them out of the bottom spot. But I think they'll be there or thereabouts for sure.
Like the end zone, Ed Sheeran. Okay, cool. Well, we will have to obviously wait not 12 months, but 9 months to see how that all kind of plays out. Let us know your thoughts on Twitter. And then just before we round off, then, guys, I suppose on this side of the pond, one of the biggest talking points of the week is the stepping down of Alistair Kirkwood from his role with NFL UK, and I'm going to put his achievements on the screen there just to kind of he's been with NFL UK for the best part of 20 years or even more. And you think, 20 years ago, NFL in this country, and now look at where it is now. I mean, it's absolute night and day. It didn't start off on the greatest foot when we saw Miami and New York Giants step foot at Wembley, but especially with was it Chris Carson a couple of days later against Croatia. But less said about that, the better. But you look at the good things that he's done. Obviously, first and foremost, brought those games to the NFL, to Wembley, and obviously Spurs and Twickenham and all the rest of it, and obviously announcements that it's likely going to be other locations. Obviously not just in London. You could find one in Scotland, and obviously Ireland as well. Would love to host a game. But you look at the amount of fans that are interested in the game, the uptick in kind of viewership, and like I say, there he's achieved a record amount of TV viewership across Sky Sports, obviously being the main proprietors of that. And then just a couple of things, obviously with the legacy side of things, is a cliche word and everyone loves to say it, but the International Player Pathway Program, and of course the I don't know why I've got the outside in there, but the NFL Academy, obviously down in London, is obviously helped get that off the ground, and getting a couple of players, including the old George Reynolds and whatnot, starting to go over to the other side of the pond. So first and foremost, Alistair, thanks from every NFL UK fan that's in this country for bringing the players that we love watching on telly week after week when the season's going. in front of our eyes. And it's not just obviously just a game. The tailgates, while it's not a conventional American tailgate, you've still got a lot of entertainment before the game, and some games had pre-shows or halftime shows and all the rest of it as well. But just great job. And as big NFL fans as the three of us are, I know we thoroughly appreciate every step and every extra hour that you've worked to get it to where the game is. So hopefully the new person that's stepping into the shoes, he's got big shoes to fill. It's kind of Ronald McDonald sizes, aren't they? But again, I don't know if you guys want to say anything, particularly I don't know if you've met Alistair or you've had a conversation with him or anything. Andy, you're nodding your head there.
Yeah, we interviewed him for the Dolphins pod actually just around the turn of the year, and just like a really just humble kind of guy, and just like completely undersold what he'd done for the sport in this country. So yeah, fair play to him. I mean, he's just like from the kind of early beginnings of it right the way through to the kind of behemoth it is now. I mean, even when I got my season ticket for the games like 5, 6, 7 years ago now, there wasn't like any demand for the tickets. You could kind of get the resale ones for 20, 30 quid in the last couple of days before games, and now, like, I mean, we've all been on that horrendous Facebook. But like the ticket crisis is crazy, but that just speaks to the demand, doesn't it? It's absolutely insane now, and it's all it's all on his shoulders for sure. I mean, just one kind of highlight I think you were going to ask us to touch on here. I mean, like I just remember back to that one of those first games at Twickenham, actually, when the Giants played the Rams, and like that Landon Collins pick six, just unbelievable kind of play, and so lucky to kind of see it in front of us unfold there. And it's just like the downside of the NFL UK games is the kind of lack of understanding around you. I was on my feet just like Landon Collins, what a play. These guys just like, obviously these like rugby fans, not a clue. That's just like a routine thing that happens every week. And so that was a great memory, and a really, really like what a legacy he's going to leave it in this country as well.
Yeah, if I should say that, I was at that game, and I very nearly picked that as one of my moments. Obviously, I wanted to veer away from Dallas fans, but that was the one game I actually took my wife to. I think the first game my wife went to, I dragged her along with as well. I lived in Twickenham at the time, so it wasn't that too long a walk home for me, and I wasn't pissed, but I could have been if I wanted to. I'll come to you, Steve, shortly in a second, but I might as well get mine out of the way. So my first game was the Chargers and the Saints. I'll never forget the moment Drew Brees threw the ball through the back of the end zone to cost me a bet. I had a winning margin bet, and it lost because the 2-point changed the window, but there we go. Just the first experience of going to your first American football game, the first tailgate. I mean, again, it's not really a tailgate in the conventional sense of the word, but at the time you didn't know any better, and you thought, well, like, there's loads of stuff going on here, there's loads of different bits going on, and overpriced food and long and long queues. So even that's come quite a long way, I suppose, as well. And then another non-Cowboys one, Alan Hearn's touchdown for the Jags against the Bills in the corner of the end zone was one of my favourite plays to watch as well. So Steve, I'll hand over to you for your favourite international series game, and anything you want to say for Alistair. Not that he watches, but
I think I started watching the NFL back sort of when the Eagles won their first Super Bowl, so about 15 years ago now. And back then, when I remember when I first started watching it was like a once a week Channel 4 event. I think it was, maybe even Channel 5 at the time, and no one else had it, and it was just like the American sport that was on late at night for all the sort of super fans. And now you look at it now, like you say, it's this behemoth that's got its own Sky Sports channel. It's this massive game. There's been talk of a franchise in London for the longest time, which, although I don't think it will happen, it doesn't seem to want to go away with all the rumours. And the fan take up has been so good, and I think they've done such a good job with interacting with the fans and making it a sort of an experience, and explaining what it is, and making sure that it's inclusive. Like, I've only been to one international series game. I went to the Eagles game about 3 years ago when they played the Jags, and just I think I saw a jersey from every team, because everyone just goes, because not just because they're Eagles or Jags fans, but because they love the sport, and it's a chance to see the NFL. It's a chance to see the players and this great sport that you otherwise wouldn't get the chance to see, because not everyone can make it over to the States and catch a game for the extortionate prices that it costs. So yeah, and I think that was it's become such a huge spectacle in the UK, and if it could logistically work, it'd be great for there to be a franchise here. I don't know if there ever will be, but it shows how big it's gotten in the UK now that there's even talk of that let alone it just having its own channel. So I think the growth of the NFL in this country has been mesmerizing over the last 15 years. And I remember when Andy and I went to uni together, and I think the first year we were there, we went to a Super Bowl party in one of the bars on campus, and there was like no one there, a handful of sort of fans, and there was like no one there. And nowadays, you can't move for places that do Super Bowl parties. There's one, I think there's one at the O2, isn't there, every year nowadays? So like, it's come on so much compared to where it was 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, just, I mean, for me, my favorite, just seeing the Eagles. And at that time as well, they were Super Bowl champions. And that was a big draw as well, to get the Super Bowl champions in London, in the UK. And they marketed it as such as well. They had it, come and see the Super Bowl champions play in London. So yeah, that was a real special moment for sure.
To be honest, Steve, you enjoyed rubbing that in my face, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, Zach got a touchdown as well, and he is still an Eagle. So the Zach Ertz weekly update is that he is still an Eagle. So there we go.
There you go. Go find if you create a burner account saying is Seagull or something. Is Seagull
still an Eagle? Yes.
There you go.
I haven't sobbed yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, obviously, I'm a Dallas fan. You can see there with Steve's shirt. He's an Eagles fan, and Andy's obviously a Miami Dolphins fan as well. But obviously, being in the UK, we have loads of sports that we like and follow. So I just thought get to know us a little bit better, and just to get to know some other teams and other sports that we follow. So Andy, I'll start with you. Other favourite sports outside of NFL? Is NFL your first and only sport, your first love, or is there another sport that takes the number one spot for you? And what type of other teams do you follow?
I think our football takes the slightly. I mean, it's a love-hate relationship. I'm a massive Birmingham City fan. I live down the south coast now, but season ticket holder for years up at St Andrews. We're absolutely crap to keep it PC for the stream, but that's just like that's in my blood. It's obviously parents and all that sort of thing. It's a kind of long family tradition, and it's kind of part of it's part of you, really, isn't it? And I know Steve will say the same for the Toon in a minute. But outside of that as well, I mean, American sports are my thing. Tampa Bay Lightning fan. Go across to Orlando quite a lot. The wife's a massive Disney fan, and I whisper it, maybe I am as well. But the chance to just drive over to Tampa and watch the Lightning play, really good team at the moment as well, and the atmosphere in the ice hockey games is actually like it's quite close to the NFL in terms of atmosphere. It's really good. Obviously, I'm a Florida State fan in the college game as well, and do the college football podcast, and also way into my baseball, Blue Jays fan, which is a bit different to my other teams, but looking forward to the start of that tomorrow, obviously against the Yankees. So yeah, I know Steve's a massive baseball fan as well, mate.
Yeah. I think I would agree with Andy that my first sport is probably football or soccer, as we're on an NFL podcast. But it's grown closer over the years, I must say. I'm a big Newcastle fan, as you can probably tell from my accent. That's where I'm sort of from up in the northeast. I went to my first game when I was 7 years old and sat in the Gallagher and watched Newcastle stuff Spurs 6-1, which was always nice. I don't think I've seen them win since. So
No.
It's been a long time since then, and obviously they're in the news an awful lot at the moment for potentially some of the wrong reasons, and potentially some of the reasons that are out of our control. But as fans, what can we do? And on top of soccer as well, I'm like I said, a baseball fan, a Red Sox fan. I worked at a kids' summer camp over in the States in Massachusetts for 5 summers, so I've got an affinity to sort of Boston. And at the time, I wasn't a baseball fan; I've never really watched it, so I picked up a Red Sox sort of jersey, and here we are. And I went to see them at the London series last year as well, which was great, and it was also about 3,000 degrees as well, so I burnt to a crisp that day. And yeah, I think there's a college ball when I can watch it, LSU, but again, it's not really on UK TV, and the timings are always difficult sometimes to catch that. But yeah, they're probably my main 4, and yeah, excited to get the MLB back up and running on a full season tomorrow as well, full 162 game season, which is really good after the shortened season last year.
I can't get bored with baseball. I think it's a tosh. But do you know what? You're saying you're a Red Sox fan now. I really wanted you to say that you picked up you said that you picked up a Red Sox jersey. I just really wanted you to say I picked up a pair of Red Sox, just wore them. Or there must be a Red Sox fan out there. Is it Red Sox? I don't know baseball. Chicago.
Yeah,
Chicago Red Sox. Yeah. Yes, come on. I just want to go to Chicago and just see if someone will answer saying the reason they support the Red Sox is because they like Red Sox or it's just saying White Sox. They do White Sox as well, don't they? But yeah, no, for me, NFL by far and away number one sport. It's all I live, breathe it, and drink it, and eat it, and sleep it. I don't know. Anything you can do to it, I've done it. I was a big soccer fan. I'm getting a bit more back into soccer. I just think it's a load of prima donnas running around, really. But back in the days prior to the Premier League, I was a United fan, Man United fan, Cockney Red. And it was actually the Eric Cantona transfer from Leeds that swayed my allegiance to United. So that's a bit about why I'm a Man United fan, not the glory days. Although I actually prefer Man United in the days of the how they are now, where they're not the best team. I don't like all this glory stuff. Obviously being a Dallas Cowboys fan, that reverts to type, doesn't it? But yeah, apart from that, I'm not really a big sport. I'm not really any other big sports because NFL just takes up so much of my time. I used to love darts. I used to play darts quite a bit as well. I was quite handy at point as well. But, I was a massive James Wade fan. Loved James Wade. Unhealthy relationship with James Wade. One way, of course. But yeah, it was a. Yeah, although saying that, when I worked for Coral years ago, we did a pro-am and I played in the doubles with him. He was my partner, and he gave me his darts after because he played crap and lost us the doubles. So. There is that story to tell as well, but I was a big darts fan. But yeah, apart from NFL, like it's literally 95% darts and then probably 5% everything else. So there we go. So there you go. There's a bit more about us. That's going to do it for today's podcast. Nice 40 minutes there. So if you want to get in contact with us at Full 10 Yards on Twitter, don't forget to check out let me get the advert up for the people that are watching it on the YouTube or wherever else you are watching. No, that's the wrong one. Andy has been part of the college team that has been doing the NFL Scout Reports Guide. Go and give it a purchase on full10yards.com/shop. 240 players plus all scouted, and loads of really good feedback. And for every copy that is sold, you will help our mission of getting people qualified in coaching, getting some officials on the field in this country as part of our drive to make it official scheme. We want to help grow this game in the country. It's a bit behind our European counterparts, and considering we do get the games, it's just we need to get more people involved, get more people, get the standards up, get the levels up, and by purchasing the guide, $5.99 for the digital copy, and the physical copy, which should be heading to the printers very imminently indeed, and be with you. So I think in the second week of April, $11.99 as well, with a free digital copy with that. But so very good. I've proofread it a number of times for whatever, and it's really good, really comprehensive, and like I say, haven't heard one bad word about it yet. So go and give that a purchase if you can do so. But that's going to wrap it up for the podcast. Thank you to Steve and Andy for joining me. I hope we'll be back next week. Hopefully Sean will be back in the driving seat. I don't think I've done too bad a job myself, so I'm going to pause for time and try and find the outro music so that so it's like I'm not making an absolute mash and butchering it, but I found it now, so we can get out of here. So from Andy, from Steve, and from me, we'll see you later. # for the game for Britball, and we'll see you next week.